Hello and welcome to Empowering Composers with ChatGPT. The way I want to do this thing here, I want to make this a little bit bigger. And don't be afraid. Yes, the rest of the presentation, you're going to love this. Don't be disturbed by this little robot here. I want to evoke a friendly association with ChatGPT because there is a lot of stuff going on around ChatGPT and AI in general. What we will do in this session today is we're going to stick to ChatGPT only. We won't go into these music creation tools. It's too early, I believe, right now to go into those. But ChatGPT has been around for enough months so that everybody hopefully had the opportunity to experience its power and the great things that can come out of it. And with that in mind, I want to talk about how to use ChatGPT to turn it into your personal assistant, how you as the artist stay in control. I actually also will show you some examples where ChatGPT fails and won't give you the correct answer. I hope that's going to work. We will do it in real time. We will be using ChatGPT 3.5 right now, since this will give you the option to recreate all of those prompts that I'm going through today. I don't think that ChatGPT, as of now, has the power to replace any artist because it relies on an input, right? And you are responsible for the input. We actually will talk about various ways how to communicate with ChatGPT, different methods. And yes, I want you to embrace this new palette of possibilities here. So MITA, that's the Music Interval Theory Academy. We are all about sharing our experiences and we want to help each other grow. That is the main reason why I'm doing this session today. I want to share some of the things that have worked for me. What you will get out of this particular session is, of course, a ton of inspiration, but we will also look at some concrete prompts, actually quite a few, that improve music-related results. And I'm not talking about the actual notes, although we will create actual music with ChatGPT and we hopefully will listen to the music as well. I want to go through some of the methods that are the best practices as of now about how to communicate with ChatGPT, in particular the chain of thought and the tree of thought approach. They have been published via OpenAI in a research paper. So I will explain quickly what that is, how to use it, because the result is way better if you approach it with this tree of thought idea or method. The first thing, let me actually tell you what you can't do with ChatGPT. So I've opened a new window here. That is ChatGPT 3.5 running in the background. I will just test this thing here to give you proof that it won't work. Write me a symphony in D major. Most likely, yes, it will give me the form, some of the general information that you will find on Wikipedia as well. The scherzo, finale, yeah, this all sounds pretty good to me, but it's not very helpful, right, in terms of a real composition. So it just explained to me what the structure of a symphony is. For reference, we won't look at the Wikipedia article here, but this is pretty much also what you will find on the internet at other sources. Now, let's actually be more specific. Let's try this one here. Compose an original romantic piece of music for the orchestra. Let's see what that does. And I can tell you already, the reason why I'm putting those things into ChatGPT right now, since it was a fresh communication channel here that I've opened, I want to give ChatGPT some context that my communication with it will be around music. So I'm doing these things already for a reason. Those ideas, they will improve future results already because ChatGPT now knows what the overall context is. That doesn't mean that you have to do these things as well. I can give you actually a better approach to doing this. But it is a helpful first step. Here we have our original romantic piece. So we have a title, Whispers of Love. We have an introduction, a first theme. The orchestra introduces a tender and lyrical melody carried by the strings and echoed. Okay, so that is a pretty vanilla explanation of what we can do as composers. It's not very practical, right? So soft woodwind solos add a subtle ethereal quality to the atmosphere. Okay, Why not? But still not very helpful. So we clearly won't reach the end goal with those prompts. I hope that everybody agrees. Now let's flip this whole thing and let's see how we can still make good use out of these reactions here. I want to give you some of those ideas, how we actually can use ChatGPT to get inspiration for our next piece. Since most of us are composers, I believe and I assume that you are familiar with composition techniques. If you're not, well, please contact me at the Music Theory Academy and I can surely help you with that. For now, let me try this one here. Let's go with a few more title ideas. It already gave me one, which was The Whispers of Love. I'm not very happy with that. That's too cheesy. Let's try another one. Please provide 5 possible title ideas for this composition. Base them on finding love in life. Okay, that's also very cheesy, I admit. But nevertheless, we get some title ideas. The big next step that I can take away is, now that we have a title, guess what? Let's put it one step further and use that title to create a full story. Because we can use a story and follow that story in the composition. So I say, I like number 5, Melodies of the Heart's Discovery. That's probably the most cheesy one in here. And then please write a story around that composition that I can use for inspiration. Okay, let's see what happens. Certainly, and it gives me a story. Now, you might still ask, Frank, this is all good and fine, but how can I use that story in my composition? Because it still feels disconnected. I'm getting to the point, believe me. And I won't go through these stories here. There are different prompts how you can make those stories better and let ChatGPT criticize those stories. And chances are very high that in this first attempt, the stories are not very well thought out. For our purpose right now, it is still okay. It's not the best starting point, but it's okay. Now we will use that story to create a clear structure for the composition. And that's the moment where I believe that's actually the interesting part, because that is something practical that we can actually use as composers. And that's going to be the prompt. I want you to create a table, divide the story into chapters and summarize the plot. Each line of that table connects to one chapter of that story. Next, I want you to create a column labeled Suggested Instrumentation, where you list the instrumentation for that part of the composition. Next, I want you to create another column labeled Emotion, where you describe the emotion of the music, including suggested dynamic changes and overall density of the music. That sounds interesting. Let's try this. Here we go. Certainly. And it creates a table. Okay, so we have a few chapters. 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's have a look at this chapter here, or this table rather. So the encounter, that's the plot summary here. Okay, so it gave a little title to each chapter. It suggested an instrumentation: solo violin, piano, violin, cello, piano, string quartet, flute, full orchestra, orchestral suite. And we have the emotion: delicate, serene, introductory, tender, intimate, building connection. So that already is something that makes more sense in terms of, structure for a composition. We can actually add a little bit to this. Let's say I want the overall composition to be around 4 minutes. Okay. Please give me an estimated duration for each chapter and include this also in the table. Let's see. So we have still our table, 20 to 30 seconds, musical connection. I just hope that ChatGPT didn't change the other parts of the table. I probably should look a bit closely in case this is really supposed to turn into a composition. But for now, this actually looks pretty decent to me. So you get a pretty good sense of how you can use a story to tell an interesting musical story. And that is, to me, something that gives me a lot of inspiration. Now, honestly, for paid gigs, I won't do this because you usually get asked to follow a given storyline or the moving picture, whatever it is. I won't let ChatGPT interfere or interact with the client. I think for pure inspiration, if you start from scratch and don't know exactly what you want to do, I think this is pretty marvelous to get going. And you can go back, ask for a different emotion, ask for a different instrumentation, and ChatGPT will continue to refine this table for you. So that is something that I think is valuable if you suffer from writer's block, for example. But let's see what else we can do. Let's have a little fun experiment for now. And I hope that ChatGPT will fail on this experiment. Funnily enough, 4 days ago, OpenAI released an update to ChatGPT 3.5, and they claim that it now has way more computing power and more input-output tokens and all these crazy things. I tried this actually 2 days ago. It still fails, which is really interesting. So the experiment is the following. I want ChatGPT to use voice leading to voice lead a simple C major triad into the F major triad. And just to be clear with everybody so that we are on the same page, that is the proper way, I believe. And you can please let me know in the chat if you would agree. That's the proper way of voice leading this triad into that triad. So we have a common note. The C remains the C tone. So that's scale tone 1 going to scale tone 5. Then on top, we have scale tone 3 going to scale tone 1. And then we have scale tone 5 going to scale tone 3. That is the whole idea. So it's a very small movement in each of the voices. That usually is the essence of voice leading. Now let's see. Here we have the first prompt. And I want to ask ChatGPT first if it is familiar with the voice leading rules. That is important actually, because it should be familiar. Please explain them to me. Yes, I'm familiar with voice leading rules. Well, we will find out. Avoid parallel fifths and octaves. Resolve dissonance. Use proper voice leading in chord progressions. When moving from one chord to another, it is important to follow smooth voice leading principles. This means minimizing large leaps between voices and using stepwise motion. That is what we just did in our example. Avoid crossing voices. Yes, that is also correct. Maintain independence of voices. Okay. And pay attention to good voice ranges. That is pretty clear. If you can't sing it as the singer, it's not good voice leading. But this is not a bad starting point. So I think let's go to prompt number 2. And that is the part where it becomes funny, at least for us. So drum roll, please. A simple C major triad into an F major triad. Certainly, it says. So the C in the bass voice moves up to the F. The E in the middle voice moves up to the F as well. Okay. So the resulting voice leading progression from C major to F major would be C, E, G, F, A, C. This actually is also wrong in that order because it has to be C, F, A. With this voice leading, we maintain smooth movement. No, I have to disagree. Let's just do this. I believe that it's not correct. Please revise your voice leading. Oh, I apologize. Okay. Well, this is even better. The C in the bass moves up to F, the E to the F, the G to the F, everything goes to the F. It gets even better. I'm still confused. Please explain the voice leading to me as I was a 5-year-old. Certainly, let's simplify everything because this was really complicated. So the C, who lives on the bottom floor, great, goes upstairs to the new bottom floor where F lives. This is really brilliant, right? The E also goes upstairs to a new middle floor where A lives. And then the G, it doesn't matter how you actually turn this around, you won't get to the proper voice leading. And This is the interesting part to me, since that is a very, very simple thing. Now, I believe that over time, obviously, it will get it right. I just thought, well, this is a fun experiment, which only shows, again, please fact check everything that you get out of ChatGPT. Now, even if you try to give more context, like explaining, if I explained the top voice, actually, this is also what I tried, it still messes around with the other voices. It won't get ChatGPT going on its own and figuring out the remaining voices on its own. Best practices. Now, that is the more technical part. What we just did all the time was we gave an input and we received an output, which is referred to as I/O prompting. That is probably the default case for most of the users out there. That's fine, because you can still have follow-up prompts and refine stuff, or let ChatGPT criticize its own result, and so on, which eventually results in the chain of thought prompting, which means you give one input and ask for several steps in the first prompt. And then ChatGPT tackles the problem with a different approach and really tries to explain each of the steps to you, which also makes it aware of some possible mistakes. The chain of thought prompting gives you better results compared to the I/O prompting. Now, the best practice as of now, which is June 2023, is what is referred to as the tree of thought process, which is the closest to how humans brainstorm. But essentially, it means I want you to explore different ways, and I want you to create these branches, and I want you to think through the branches, and then you pick those steps from each of the branch that you think works best, which eventually leads to an individual path through all of those possibilities, this dark green output line here. And that, again, increases the quality of your output that you will get out of ChatGPT. Now, this is a bit of a technical explanation, I know. And for that reason, we will just explore a few of those things. So the I/O prompting, and I want to do these things rather quickly because we did this in the beginning already. Now, that is more or less compose me an original piece of music. As we know, it won't work. But still, all of the context and the musical ideas in mind, it now gives me a different result because it understands, okay, it's about music theory, so I can be more theoretical with the guy who gives me the input. And that is why we're now seeing chorus, bridge, and probably a verse or something. Yes. And that is pretty much the song form, I believe. We don't have to go through it. That is the input-output prompting. Now let's go with the chain of thought, and we will read it quickly using the chain of thought approach. So I'm giving actually the chain of thought prompt. Start by brainstorming the main theme or motif, then describe how you would develop it throughout the composition. Consider the progression of harmonies. Finally, explain how you would bring the piece to a satisfying conclusion. Take us through your thought process and creative decisions as you craft the composition. This is important that you ask for these various steps, because now I hope to get back a way better and more detailed result. Step 1. Brainstorming, the main theme. So 4 notes. It actually starts to compose here. Developing the composition, okay, harmony, instrumentation. I just want to see what those steps are. And then conclusion and final section. Climatic build-up, the resolution. So this actually gives me already some great ideas, but still, it's not practical for a composer, right? You could have just sit there for a few minutes and write down these things as well, and you won't have anything that you can show to your client. So let's go to this one here, which is our tree of thoughts. And I also want to show you what's going on. Please compose me an original piece of music using the tree of thought approach. Start by brainstorming multiple ideas for the main theme or motifs and create branches for each idea. Describe how you would develop each branch, considering different harmonic progressions, rhythmic patterns, and so on. Explore branching possibilities for instrumentation, and so on and so on. Finally, explain how you would connect and weave these branches together into a cohesive musical composition. And again, take us through your thought process and creative decisions as you craft the piece, considering the different paths and possibilities along the way. Let's see. So, step 1, idea 2, idea 3. Step 2, developing each branch. Branch 1. Number 2. And we should be seeing number 3. Then step 3, connecting and weaving the branches together. Now, this is actually interesting. Exploring moments of intersection where different branches blend harmonically or rhythmically. Crafting transitions between branches. Still, it gives you ideas and the instruction on how to do this, but it does not really offer help in doing it, which gives me a good feeling as of now as the composer, because this is exactly what a composer is asked to do. You are supposed to create transitions between different sections and compose, actually. That is why you get paid. Come on. Don't be lazy. Just do your job. Then here, but can ChatGPT even write the notes on paper? The quick answer is yes. And the question I want to ask you is, well, do you want to try this with me right now? Because this is an experiment. So let's explore how to do this and how to write some actual notes. There are 2 ways you can ask ChatGPT to compose. The first thing is via musicXML, which is probably the easier part. The second part is you can ask for MIDI programming. Both ways will work. However, I will go with musicXML because this is just easier to handle. Please write me an advanced, I'm saying advanced, you will see why I'm highlighting this, original 4-bar melody from the Baroque era in musicXML format. And that's also the moment where we start seeing the code, certainly. Here is an original 4-bar melody in the style of the Baroque era. Yes, so it creates the code. It's not done yet. I will scroll up because I will see when it has finished. Anyway, since I need to copy the code. So it is finished. I'm copying the code. Now the big question is what to do with that. The easy answer is you grab any text editor, just paste it in. And I'm going to save this to a file that I call test.xml. And here it is. The next thing that I want to do, I go to a page. I'm not an affiliate of that page, and I want to do this quickly. I go to the test.xml file, and that is why I said it's an experiment, because I don't know if it works or not, but we will see. Ha! Welcome to the quote-unquote advanced melody. Let me play this. Honestly, I'm not impressed. But that is a way how you can get ChatGPT to write actual music. The funny part is you can also now go ahead and say, please write me a second line to the first line, make it move in 16th notes. And that's the moment where ChatGPT will refuse to do it. It probably is, overwhelmed with this approach. But it is really funny and interesting to me that technically it works to move MIDI data around, or music XML data rather, but it's not a threat to composers, not at all. Let me show you some of the ways that I believe are very good use cases of ChatGPT. I need a theme for my next orchestral piece. Can you suggest something evocative? Let's see. It can suggest everything, but the question is, what do you do with that information later? So I would always look at those things as inspiration, always. Can you provide a narrative or scenario that I could base my next song on? This is all more or less the use case for songwriters. Also lyrics, of course, stuff like, well, what rhymes with, and then you just give a word. This is actually good use. What I believe is way more interesting, though, is something like that. And I'm going with this whole prompt. I'm going to read it to you in a second. Role play. Imagine a room with those characters sitting. Well, we just need characters. Let me back up one step. Let me ask, who do you think had the biggest influence on music theory, or what characters, actually, dead or alive, had the biggest influence on music theory? And I believe we will be familiar with those names. Pythagoras, of course. Yes. Yeah, Johann Sebastian Bach, Rameau, Heinrich Schenker, probably Schönberg. No. Okay. Anyway, now role play. Imagine a room with those characters sitting on a round table and discussing the following subject I provide. Use all of the knowledge about each person to respond in the most authentic way, and let each character critique the respective other replies. Don't break character. The topic I want to be discussed is the best use of ChatGPT for composers. Here we go. Okay, characters sitting on the round table. The best use of ChatGPT. Pythagoras. The wonders of technologies and its application in music. ChatGPT can certainly be a valuable tool for composers, aiding in the exploration of new harmonic possibilities, and so on. Yep. Then Ariso. Indeed, technology has come a long way since my time. Oh yes, I believe so. ChatGPT can be advantageous for composers in terms of its accessibility and convenience. They offer different things right here. And because I don't want to read through all of that, please summarize the conversation for me. Okay, that is way better. Exploring new harmonic, but cautioned against relying solely on technology. Exactly, emphasizing the importance of genuine creativity, providing them with historical compositions and broadening their musical horizons. However, he stressed the need for composers to maintain their own creativity. I think all of these points, they all actually go in the same direction, which is use it as a tool. That is also a good closing word to what you can do with ChatGPT, just from the top of my mind. Be cautious with those things like, please create me a cue sheet template. So let's see. If you do things like that, Q1, please create a cue sheet in table format. So here we go. Now it's using SQL. Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. So it has the cue, a description, time in, time out. Question to the audience, what is missing? And that is not a trick question, by the way. So the first thing that I see what is missing is there is no PRO and there is no publisher. Seems that it's not that important to have a PRO collect your royalties. Well, actually, ChatGPT is great, but there are some strict limitations and restrictions that I would not recommend relying on these things. Because if you just trust these things blindly and you go with that, you run risk to really experience some serious damage in your career. You won't get any royalties. That's the outcome of following this advice right here. What I can't cover in today's session, but we can actually have a follow-up session if that is interesting to you. We can go into ChatGPT 4. We can use some of the plugins in there, which are at some point mind-blowing. The ways how you can leverage the power of AI in terms of summarizing whole videos. You don't have to watch them actually. So I also did some tests there with my own videos. The result was remarkable, I have to say. So I was rather surprised. But in terms of accessibility, 3.5 can be accessed by everyone. You don't have to pay for that. That is why I wanted to stick to 3.5 as of today. Now, how can you get the PDF that we are looking at? If you want to get this, if you want to test some of those prompts or use variations of those things, I will make the PDF available inside the Composer's Toolkit for free. So I will add the PDF here to the AI Assistant, which is another big package of prompts and very inspiring ideas about how you can leverage and use ChatGPT. So I highly recommend, if you haven't looked into this, that you do this actually, if you're interested in learning more about ChatGPT and how you can use it as a composer. And obviously, we talk about music, and we talk about interval theory. And if you feel that you're trapped in, let's say, the diatonic cage, then I invite you to get in touch with me or TC and let me know about your struggles. And if I can help you, I will let you know. If I can't help you, I will also let you know. Many thanks to everybody. I hope that you will come back for future meetings, and please don't run away because I will go through the Q&A section right now.